getting some of it back in his face because he's such an idiot.
We're trying to create a reaction, a passion, thinking, whether it's nonsense or it's really accurate in terms of the fan talking it or me talking it. We're talking.
What's up with the Phoenix Suns, man? What's going on with them?
Increasingly, the talk is more provocative, more personal than ever.
I do want to say is a loser, off wife beater. This guy, they found a track record on him as long as like the Melrose Mile on his domestic disputes.
Moving a mile a minute, they fly from one topic to the next, reciting stats, inciting callers.
All right, so you're tired, and I'm tired, and I'm tired of you.
Driven by a numbers game all their own.
Our business is about listeners and ratings and ears. I mean, we try to rein it in as much as we can. But again, here's the simple answer. Radio is free. You don't like it, turn it off.
Some sports talkers steer down the safer path, backing comment and criticism with fact.
You've got to have your facts straight before you come on the air. But that doesn't mean that you're doing a fact-dominated show.
But more than ever, it's style over substance on the talk show circus, where journalistic principles often take a back seat to shtick.
Well, first, you're not reporting. You're not a journalist, whatever that word be, journalist. You're an entertainer.
You know, really, I'm almost a rumor monger. To some extent, not even me, not me, but what I represent.
Do you see yourself as an entertainer, as a journalist?
Totally an entertainer.
Who's another wife beater loser, and you know, I hope he gets his Achilles ripped while the knee gets shattered.
29-year-old Scott Farrell of KNBR in San Francisco never stops talking, raging, engaging, doing the dance, as he calls it, at the speed of sound.
Hey, man, if I got to be this bad seed, bad apple, broken egg with a bad attitude, raggedy egg, if I got to be the Stromboli, loud, beer-drinking guy, I'll tell you one thing, they'll never forget me.
Ratings for his show have doubled since his arrival at KNBR last year, after disturbing the peace on stations from Williams, Arizona to Las Vegas. He's already got a cable TV show, his act topped only by his ego.
Industry people know that I got a gift. I feel blessed. I mean, I got something that only a few guys have. I think there's a handful. I can count them on one hand. I'm talking about Howard. I'm talking about Rush. I'm talking about Imus. But certainly not many people know how to do the dance.
Ballistic in the bay for the Farrell.
It was here by the beach in Florida that Farrell says he crafted his skills. Not at some small station, but rather a unique training ground for sports talk radio. Pouring beers at a local oyster bar.
I was just sitting there getting fat on knowledge and on delivery and on passion with people. If I can stare some drunk in the face and get him going and get him irate and get him screaming at me and handing me his money at the same time.
Hey, can I have a beer?
Hey, yeah, and pop him because he likes that Zamboni, I think. Isn't he the guy, Deese?
Today, Farrell fires away about beer, point spreads, and anything else that dares cross the path of this former Indiana University journalism grad.
One of the things you learn in journalism school, there's two things really that are the most important.
Right.
Accuracy and fairness.
Right.
Are those important to you?
I think I skipped the second day when they were teaching it about the fairness. I mean, I don't think, in essence, every day that the guys that are on sports radio across the country are fair.
Farrell says overall his act is based on facts, but his obsession to be the biggest, baddest voice around can be dangerous.
I want you to watch yourself here.
What's Ty Wheatley's role in New York Giants?
Simple. Put him in camp and watch him get popped. He'll probably lose a knee in week 10. He's a wussy. I never liked him in Michigan. He sat out. He's like, oh, my knee. I don't want to risk the financial thing.
Now, let me read you a couple things about Ty Wheatley. In his entire career, he only missed 2 games.
Right.
It was his shoulder, not his knee, that was hurt.
Yeah, I believe it.
Second all-time in rushing, 4,186 yards. Third all-time at Michigan with 688 rushes. Now, you're calling him a wuss. You're calling him a guy who doesn't get it done on the field. The statistics say otherwise.
He's going to be a great pro, and there's your flavor. There's your anti-Farrell. You know why? Because as a kid, my parents every single week forced me to go to Ann Arbor to watch my mother's alma mater.
But wait,
march
let's
out
not
of there
talk
in the
about family.
van.
Let's
So
not
I
talk
hate
about family.
I
Let's
think
talk about family. Let's talk about accuracy.
I think it was a situation where
you were inaccurate.
I've hated Michigan, so it's like there's a lot of guys that get their shot to jump on teams that or players they don't like. In this
But
town,
that's not accurate.
Hey, I'll tell you.
Is that fair to Tyrone Wheatley though? This guy
no,
played
it's not fair. It's not fair to any of the athletes that get thrown in.
Now to talk baseball, here's 700 WLW's Andy Furman. All right, 9 minutes.
Andy Furman is a former junior high school science teacher turned racetrack promoter turned sports talk maven at WLW, the 50,000-watt flagship station of the Cincinnati Reds.
Why does the National Enquirer sell? We want to talk about people. We want to talk about people's lives.
A few years ago, Furman dug into the personal life of former Reds pitcher Greg Swindell. Citing a Red source, he reported the team would not re-sign the pitcher because Swindell was seeking to escape a messy extramarital affair with a local woman. Furman never called Swindell, who was on a road trip at the time, for comment.
Why didn't you call Greg?
Mean in Houston? Good point. I don't know. I mean, just to I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know why. I just knew in my heart that I had the story and that was it. But I mean, to ask him what he thought of it, would he want to comment on it? I mean, why would I call him?
Yet Furman had no trouble putting the woman claiming she had the affair with Swindell on the air.
We don't screen calls here because this is still talk radio and she's a voice in the night like everybody else. Everybody has 10 minutes of fame on the radio and they're given credibility.
Instant credibility in a world where disembodied voices have tail and self-styled entertainers rage morning, noon, and night.
It can be very reckless, especially when you're driving out of control.
Hey, if you don't like it, roll over and choke on it and in bed.
When Outside the Lines continues, how much power do these talk show hosts wield?
I was on him from day one, and I think he was gone because of it.
Have you noticed? You've been seeing more Lincolns these days? In our competitors' commercials? Maybe you should see your Lincoln dealer and discover what our competition seems to have noticed. Because now you can lease the all-new V8 Lincoln Continental for only $549 a month for 24 months. Plus, we'll even pay your sales tax. But hurry, this great offer ends July 5th. Somehow, we don't think you'll see that in our competitors' commercials.
From Plano to Denton down to Louisville too.
I shopped around at 2 other dealerships. The first one didn't want to give me the time of day, and the second one had too much pressure. When I came to Huff Hines, it was a great experience. I know I got the absolutely best deal at Huff Hines. If I was to sum up my shopping experience here, I would say Huff Hines has it all. Huff Hines has it.
These guys are atop the National League Central. And this red machine shows no signs of slowing down. This week, they're at Riverfront to take on Tom Glavine and the Atlanta Braves. Then, the AL West is going to be a dogfight all year. The Angels face the Royals in Anaheim. The Braves versus the Reds at 7:30. The Royals versus the Angels at 10:30. The Wednesday doubleheader on ESPN.
Onward and upward, the awards, the honors for the Toyota Camry continue to rise, and the car that's become the gold standard can now be leased for as little as $229 a month, which includes automatic transmission, air conditioning, power windows and door locks, and more. The new 1995 Toyota Camry lease, starting at just $229 a month. So low for a car that aims so high.
When the opinion of sports radio turns negative, are teams listening? Are coaches hired and fired? Players signed and traded? Because the front office has an ear to this broadcast drumbeat. Some stations take credit for firings, like so many skins up on the wall. And as Larry Rawson tells us, sports radio has become a volatile element, sometimes the most explosive part of the relationship between a coach and his city.
Jeff Torborg was a nice guy who honestly tried to instill things in a team that it wasn't going to win. Ray Hanley should never have been hired. He was not head coaching material. It was one of the worst hires this town has ever seen.
Buddy Harrelson let New York intimidate him. And if New Yorkers sense that a manager is intimidated, they'll let you have it.
Bruce Coslett could have made it. I think his biggest problem was he talked 400 and coached 250.
Some would argue that WFAN is the most influential media in New York. The opinions that come out of this studio have cost players, coaches, and managers their jobs.
Chance. If they would have stopped them there, they would have had the ball and a lead.
Every afternoon, Mike Francesa and Chris Mad Dog Russo talk sports on WFAN. They analyze, criticize, praise, and punish players, coaches, managers, and owners. And they believe they have the power to make sure that those who aren't getting it done get out of town.
Well, I've had coaches say, you know what, I think you really started the ball rolling to get me fired. I don't know if that's true. You know what, they started the ball. If they didn't lose the games, they wouldn't have any problems. There wouldn't be any problems. I just try to always be fair.
I think we can be really more pain in the neck more than anything else. I think sometimes people give the media and WFAN a little bit too much credit for having this kind of incredible impact. If the stars are aligned right and something bad happens, we probably can push that person or that team over the edge.
This is a team that has dug its own grave so many times.
The one thing that the coaches and the people who are opponents to talk radio are totally right about is it is by nature a negative process. Losing is better than winning. Bad stories are better than good stories. That's the nature of the beast.
The aggressiveness of WFAN is not something unique to New York City. Today, the power of sports talk is becoming a force across the country.
Sports Radio 950, KJR. I'm Mike Gastineau. It's good to have you with us today.
It was a classic case of the power of sports talk radio. Last June, Sonics coach George Karl orchestrated a blockbuster deal, a trade that would send Sean Kemp to the Bulls for Scottie Pippen. Calling into the station, the fans spoke, and the owner listened.
The response on KJR, which is also owned by Sonics owner Barry Ackerley, was so vehemently opposed to the deal because of Kemp's popularity, and coupled with the fact they're going into a new facility next year, he did not want to turn off the fans with such an unpopular move.
Beat writer Mike Kahn watched as the Sonics owner pulled out of the deal, a move that had a lasting impact on head coach George Karl.
Barry Ackerley just pulled the rug out from under him, and nothing could have humiliated him more. And I do think that that day had such a pronounced effect on this team this year, the whole year, and why the team broke down, because George's confidence and George's just sense of well-being began to break down at that point, and I don't know that he ever got it back.
If you're running a business and you're thinking about making a major move, and you hear that 90% of your customers don't like the anticipated move, I think you'd be nuts not to pay attention to that.
This spring in Chicago, White Sox manager Gene Lamont was the target of WSCR and WMVP. The two all-sports stations in the Windy City hammered him day in and day out.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm surprised it took this long. You know, I've only been here a month and a half. Why did it take the extra 2 weeks?
Gene Lamont didn't prepare the team right, didn't motivate the team right. His strategy was very, very questionable.
Following the team's miserable start of 11 wins and 20 losses, Lamont was fired.
If he was on the edge, there's no question that I pushed him. I mean, I'm known as the coach killer, the assassin, the guy that goes after even successful coaches. Because I think coaches do have a big role. And I think Gene Lamont did have a big role in what happened in the Chicago White Sox. And I wasn't going to let it continue any longer.
Now all eyes and ears are zeroing in on Lamont's successor, Terry Bevington. It's the day-to-day pounding and criticism that's hard to take.
What sports talk can do, it gets the fans interested in the game. When they get interested in a game, they can turn the outcome. They can trade a player. They can fire a coach. No matter what anybody says, they really can.
I am a bigger and tougher critic on myself than anybody ever will be. So nobody can be more critical of myself than myself.
Don't come in here firing and saying that we said something that we didn't say.
Across town at the Score, the veterans of Chicago sports radio are at the mic. The monsters of midday, former Chicago Bear Dan Jiggets and one-time hot dog vendor Mike North. They've been on the air for 3 years now and have seen a lot of coaches